welcome back to this tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to do an example related to how to expose your class as a REST web service. So what you are going to do is, we are going to create a class and we will expose this class as a web service. So the first thing is we have to make this class as global, right? And then there would be at the rate rest resources notation, which is basically a unique identifier, which is basically to tell you that, hey, if this particular URL is invoked, then this is the class that will be called. And inside of this class, we are going to have methods with HTTP get annotation, HTTP post, delete, etc. So if you are retrieving any record, then it is the get request. If you are deleting any request, it should be HTTP delete request. So we are going to create these methods with these annotations, and each of those methods will be marked as global and static. So through this class, we are going to use a case. The name of the class would be case manager. And inside of this, we will have methods to retrieve the records. So if an external system wants to fetch the case record by the ID, then we can do that. If you want to create a new record, then there's going to be a method available which will basically will help. If you call that method, it will create the record. Then if you want to delete a particular record with the ID, then there will be a method for the delete as well. So you have to invoke this method by the URL. So what will happen is, we are going to create a class which will expose as a REST web service, and then through the REST client. So there is going to be a REST client. Through that REST client, if you will make that call, and based upon what type of request it is, you are the corresponding method will be invoked. So I will repeat here. So we are going to expose. So let's first erase this. So I will repeat here. We are going to expose the REST web service, and then we will have a client which will invoke. So we are going to have a client which will invoke the methods from this particular web service. So it is going to invoke the method. We will use the client, the REST client, to invoke the methods of this web service. So let's start. The first thing we are going to do is, we are going to go back to our developer console, and in the developer console, I will create a Apex class. So file, new Apex class, and the name of this class is, we will call it as case manager. This is going to be the name of the class. And rule number 1, for the REST exposing your class as a REST web service, we have to use the keyword global, not the public. We have to use the keyword global. And if you want, you can explain with sharing as well. Now this is going to be the class name. Now inside of this, so first thing is, we have to use the annotation at the rate rest resource. Rest resource. It is basically to tell them that K and yeah, rest resource. It is basically to tell them that, hey, this is a resource, this is a URL mapping. Like if you want to invoke this resource, then this is the URL. Then this is the URL that you need to, if any. If the request comes which has these cases like this, CA cases, then this is the service that will be called. Okay, like this and this. Okay. So you are saying you are using this @ rest resource annotation, and then you are passing this URL mapping is equals to /cases/ whatever you want to do. So this is the word that is going to look for. If in the URL, if you are making a request with this cases in it, then this is the resource that will be invoked. Now inside of this class, we are going to define all the methods. So the first method I am going to define is an HTTP @HTTP get. By the name itself, it indicates that it is going to retrieve something. The method has to be global and static. And the method is going to return you a record of the type case. And the name of the method, let's call it as get case by ID. Get the case by ID. So if you are making a get request for this resource /cases/ if you are making a get request, this is the method that will be invoked. So we want it. So inside of this, we are going to go ahead and create an instance of this REST request. REST request is equals to REST contacts dot request. So basically with this, REST context, it gives you a request as well as the response. So by using this, I am getting an instance of this request, HTTP request. From that request, from the HTTP request, I wanted to know what is the ID of that record that you are requesting. So when you are making this request, you probably will be doing something like this. Let's take the marker. You probably will do that. /cases and then / and then there will be some ID, let's say 154. So basically I wanted to know what this ID is so that I can query my Salesforce database for this ID and get the record and give it back to you. So this is what's going to happen. So from this REST request, I am getting this request. I have this request in my hand, and then I am going to go ahead and just use this request URI, and inside of this REST URI, I am going to look for a substring. I am looking at the request URI. request URL. I am looking for the last index of this slash. So where is the last slash for in the index? That is for the basically after the last slash. Okay, here +1. And whatever the last slash is, that is basically the ID for the record that I am looking in. So I am going to store that in this variable called case ID. So what do I mean by that is, so if the URL is like this, slash services, if the URL is slash services Apex Rest cases, and then the ID, whatever the ID is, 115. So what I am doing inside of this get method, I have this request object, this URL, and I am looking for the last index of slash. Means I am looking for this slash. And I am saying what is this after the slash. So basically it is nothing but the ID. So this ID will be stored in this variable called case ID. This is what I am doing. Now what I am doing next is, once I have the ID of the record that you are looking for, then I am going to do a select query to fetch that record. So I am going to go ahead and select the case number, select case number. These are the fields that are available. The subject, then the status, then the origin, then the priority. From the case object, where then I am going to see where the ID is equals to, where the ID is equals to the user has provided in that request. So this ID can keep changing. Now, whatever the record we got, we are going to store the record in this variable of the type case, and the name of the variable is result. And then we are just returning the result. That's all we are doing. Then you must be saying that, hey, what are these fields? Where are these fields present? Case number, subject, status. Those are the fields that are coming from here. So if you go to the cases, or you can also get from here, object manager, search for cases. These are the respective fields. This is the case number, case origin. Then we have subject, priority, status, subject. All these fields are available here. So we have status, priority. You can look all the fields in these. So these are all the fields that are available in the case object. So what I am doing is, in my query, I am looking for all those fields for specific record. And which record? The ID that I have mentioned in the URL. Here. So this is what going to happen. So this is your web service. Okay, this is the web service. Now how you are going to call if an external system want to fetch the information for the particular case, then they have to make a request with this URL and a get request with the ID that you are looking for. So that request will go to this web service, and then we will, based upon the ID that you have requested, that particular case will be returned back to you. So how you are making that request for this web service? Using a REST client. So what do I mean by that is, you can use any kind of REST client, but for now we are going to use the workbench. So in order to access it, we are going to go ahead and use this URL, workbench dot developer force dot com slash login dot php. So this is going to the URL. So we are going to access this URL. So this is production and the API version is 41.0. So I agree to the sales and conditions. So log in with Salesforce. Allow. And you are going to use this REST Explorers. Okay, this is going to be, we are going to use this REST Explorer and select. So this is how you will make your request, and that request will go to this particular resources if you are requesting for a specific resource. So how you are going to make this request? So these are the different methods. So these are the different methods that are available: get method, post method, put method, patch, delete, and head. So these are all the methods that are there. We in our resource, we only define one method for now, which is this get method. So this is the method that we have defined. And inside of this get method, what we are doing is, we are creating this request object, and through this request, we are accessing the ID that the request has been made for. We are storing the ID of the case that you are looking for in this variable, and then we are making the query in the Salesforce database with that ID that you have requested, and we are giving back to the result. So how you are going to invoking? So we are going to say slash services slash apex rest. So you have to provide this URL, and based upon what the URL is, You also, let's say this also expecting you for the ID of the record that you are interested in. So let's say I am interested in, let's go ahead and take a look at the cases we have. And I am interested in this particular case. I wanted to know about this case. So here I am details. So I am passing the ID of this case like this. So here I am passing the ID of that case. Okay, so I'm passing the ID of the case and I'm making a get request. So at the end, at the resource end, we already have a method defined called get. And then the resource, that the rest resource is this. And this is exactly what we have mentioned, slash cases with the ID. So once we hit the execute, okay, by mistake, I have used the contacts ID. Okay, I have to use the case number. Let's use the case number. So let's go to the cases. So this is the case number. So I have to use this one. I have to use this. So this is the ID I am requesting and I am going ahead and use this ID and then hit the execute button. So this is the case ID. In the initial one, I have actually done mistake. I have added the contact ID. So this is the ID here. And once you are requested, once you are specified the ID in the URL, what will happen? This is the resource that will be invoked. This is the resource that will be invoked. We are getting the request for the slash cases. We provided the ID. So that whole response that came back with the case number, then you have is the subject, status, etc. So that's what the response is. Yeah, now it is correct because I have some problem in my code. It is giving the status, origin, origin is web, priority is low, and then this is the ID. Now this is how you make a request. So this is the resource that get invoked when you made a request. So let's say we want to look for something else. So let's say you wanted to look for this particular case. Okay, cases, and this one, and you wanted to look for this particular case. So let's copy this, paste here, and now I'm making a get request for this case. This is what the output is. So case number is this. It's a new status, origin is web, priority is low, and this is the ID. So you are making a get request for this URL. So if you change the URL, then you are going to get an error here because the service is not found. There is nothing available which has this cases one. There is no resource with this identifier. There is no URL mapping for the cases one. There is a mapping for cases that we already created, that a web service, but we do not have a resource with this mapping. We'll got an error that not found. It gave you an error like this. It says not found because it was looking for a resource with this URL mapping and it did not find. So that's why you got a error not found. So this is how you expose your class as a REST web service, and this is one of the method that we have defined. Now in the next tutorial, we are going to go ahead and add few more methods like a post method, delete method, etc. And how to do that, we are going to take a look in the next tutorial. Till then, have a good day. Bye.